Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 12 of Import Nights, the review series for GranTurismo's selection of import JDM tuner cars which are of course hugely popular. Most of them have massive fan followings. Others are perhaps a little bit more of a cult following, small but very dedicated fans. Now this particular model has a huge following, both specifically to the model and also as, in the more broader sense, a range, and that is of course the Skyline from Nissan. This particular model though is of course the R32 GT-R of the Skyline, and the model that we're featuring is the premium version. Now as far as price, the Skylines do cost a little bit more than you might expect of a Japanese car. They're a little bit more expensive than the Supra, but at the same time it's kind of appropriate that they are, because in real life the Skylines were pretty expensive when they were released. Now as far as its raw on-paper spec, you're pretty much always guaranteed to be putting out some pretty good numbers when you're talking about a Skyline, and this car's no exception. 2.6 litre turbo, all-wheel drive, 840 horsepower fully tuned, 608 foot-pounds of torque, and with the full weight loss package, the same weight as a WRC rally car, 1230 kilos. As far as horsepower per tonne, you're looking at 683, which really is supercar territory, and the fully tuned PP is actually quite reasonable due to the fact that it is slightly less powerful than some of the other Skylines, but still very high at 619. It is most definitely, though, a highly competitive car at that level, and unlike many cars which I review, this is one of those vehicles which I definitely would recommend racing at any PP that it can be tuned to, because it can compete at that level. Now as far as the differences between Skylines, is it a case of the Evo and Impreza syndrome, or is it more a case of the Porsche 911 syndrome? Because of course the Evos and Imprezas over the course of their life basically just refined the same idea with relatively minute differences between each one in their fully tuned form. The Porsche 911 on the other hand made massive jumps through the years. So which is the Skyline? Is the Skyline the kind of car that makes big jumps with each generation, or is it only some minor refinements? Well, I would say that there are some pretty big jumps. The R32, R33 and R34, just as examples, are completely different machines to each other. They have completely different handling styles, completely different performance, and the way the car feels overall is unique to each specific model. And that's a great thing. It does of course mean that some people will be disappointed with a newer generation version, but it also means that there's potentially something for everyone. For the purist, you can go for the R32. It has that hardcore, lightweight, track-ready appeal. The R33 has a slightly softer image with a more playful attitude and is more inclined towards being an upgradable, not just performance, but also visually upgradable machine. The R34 to some degree puts those two elements together and improves them even more, turns it up to 11. This particular model is much more track focused than many of the other Skylines. It's a hardcore track car with incredible ability. Now in a straight line it does have less power than the others, so as you'd expect it is slightly slower. Not as much as you might expect though than the R33 and R34 for acceleration, especially top end, and the top speed is not that far behind. You're looking at around 260, 265 under its own power, more of course with NOS and slipstream. As far as acceleration, well, especially with NOS, it can get off the line like an absolute monster and beat vehicles with significantly more power over the quarter mile. Around the track though, is where the Skyline really shines, and everyone knows this. It's a formidable track-going opponent in both road and racing form, and although personally I'm not a huge fan of the R32, I prefer the R34 and then the R33 is my personal favourite, it does have to be said that this is a fantastic track car. The handling, as I mentioned the other day in my replica of the Mines R32 using this same car, that the handling, and specifically the cornering speeds which you can achieve with this car, really are mind-blowing. To say it's on par with a racing car is not an understatement. It's an incredibly quick machine. Now obviously in real life it would be much more difficult to pilot the car in its fully tuned form to the kind of lap times that we can do on the game. But on the game you can do that, and if you can do it, you may as well make use of it, because this car, especially for a road vehicle, is a formidable all-round package. And even though, like most Skylines, it does cost a little bit more than some other Japanese alternatives, the price on this vehicle of just under 53 grand certainly is not too much. The value for money is fantastic on this car. It's a full premium with nice body mods, makes a great rally car, drift car and track car. So it goes without saying, of course you should get a Skyline in your garage. As for which model you prefer, well, that depends on your personal driving style. I like the R33 because it's a little bit more tail happy and has a little bit more of a inclination towards being a nose heavy car rather than neutral. The R32 is a fairly 50-50 car as far as handling, as is the R34. The R33 though has more bonnet than boot, and as such it handles a little bit more like a traditional sports car in some ways, and I like that. This car though is hardcore, focused and immensely capable, and that's coming from someone who isn't a particular fan of it. So it goes without saying you should definitely try it, and that's it for this particular episode, so I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.